Well, it's official. We can now call former Vice President Joe Biden President-elect Joe Biden. So I want to try to break down this election, what all happened this week and leading up to the previous. So I'll start with a few things. What I predicted, what's happened. I'll address some issues of voter fraud that have been popping up, and the Supreme Court, how I think that might have been a backfire, and then just what it means to the future of the Republican Party, especially with like Georgia, North Carolina, and Arizona being in play for Democrats. So let's begin. My prediction. If you follow me on Twitter, tcoil97, and you follow me on Facebook, you'll know that I predicted, starting a few weeks before the election, that we were going to see a Trump with 272 electoral votes to Biden's 266. It did not work out that way. But what I did caveat, I said, look, the margin of error is so razor thin, we could easily see that number flip-flop. I even saw a scenario where Biden actually widened his lead, because I saw a scenario where Biden could take more states than I had in Trump's orbit, and I just didn't see Trump picking up any states that were in Biden's orbit. And I did also say, kind of echoing what some other people were saying about we would see this red mirage where on election night it would show Trump winning, but then the lead would evaporate as mail-in votes got counted. So let's talk about how we got there. First off, one thing I want to give a round of applause for all of America. Trump had more votes than Obama did in 2012, and Joe Biden had the most votes of any presidential candidate in history. That means record numbers of Americans made their voices heard, and I am proud of that. So once more, round of applause. Regardless of how this all turned out, that's a good sign. So then why did mail-in ballots break for Biden? Very simple. Trump told people mail-in ballots didn't work, and Biden, with COVID and all that kind of thing, Democrats were encouraging the mail-in ballots. And so you saw, even in red counties, it was about a 70-30 ratio, 70%, 30% ratio, regardless of blue county or red county, in terms of mail-in ballots splitting for Biden, because like the Trump people showed up in force. But there's a backfire. I'd be interested in seeing how this explores. This is a theory of mine in my model. I have some family friends in Michigan, friends of my parents. They intended to show up to the polls and vote for Trump because they didn't want to mail in their ballot. They thought it wouldn't work, so they listened to Trump. Well, then it came election week, and they started getting some concerns, oh God, I don't want to show up there. I mean, I'm worried about getting sick and that kind of thing, especially with the spike in COVID cases. I even told them, you know what, just mail in your ballot. You are good to go. You get it postmarked by November 2nd. They had the mail-in ballots at home. You get your voice in there. But like, oh no, but Trump said it doesn't work. So these are people in Michigan who wanted to vote for Trump who did not cast a ballot. Now, I don't know how you can extrapolate that to the rest of America, especially other key states, but there you go. It'd be an interesting study to see how, in a broader aspect, people didn't vote that would have voted for Trump. That was a backfire there. And many Republican strategists told Trump, hey, stop doing that. You're undercutting the vote. So that's where we are with that. Now we have the issue here. That's the mail-in ballot thing. And then you look at, and other people kept saying, well, how can Biden win? Look at the rallies. Rally size does not matter. I'll give you an example. Hillary Clinton, 2016, her rallies couldn't hold a candle to Trump's rallies. And yet she won by almost 3 million popular votes. And then in the key states of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, she lost by a total of 77,000 votes. And Hillary Clinton was regarded as the most unpopular candidate in history. And then Donald Trump was second most unpopular candidate in history. And yet she only lost by 77,000 votes in 4 states. A lot of that, I'm sure, was people thought Hillary had this in the bag and they stayed home, right? So again, you can't really, because if rallies mattered, you'd see the ratios matching that a little bit. Then you take it to 2020. You knew Biden's more popular than Hillary Clinton. That's not an issue. You had enough Republicans who were defecting to Biden, who got tired of Trump's shtick. I mean, you had the Lincoln Project, for example, Republicans who were actually all in all campaigning against Trump. So, yeah, the rally thing's a stupid metric. It's like the fact that I love Budweiser commercials, but I absolutely refuse to drink Budweiser beer. It's a bad metric. So, that's where we are. And then now we look at voter fraud. A lot of these talks about voter fraud. I've looked at a lot of this, and everything's been debunked. For example, there's one video that made the rounds showing like this, oh my God, look at this woman. She's just writing in a ballot, and she's doing it for Biden and all that kind of thing. And they took a real video. But there's one small problem. The full video came from a news broadcast, and the one that made the rounds was cropped. But if you see the real video, what it was a story about how they were finding ballots that were not read, and they were basically remarking the ballots with observers on camera from the Republican and Democratic Party checking it out and observing the process. No voter fraud. And then you had situations where, what was the other voter fraud thing? It was, the computer in Michigan, we had like 6,000 Trump votes that actually went to Biden. Again, not a conspiracy. They found it. We know about this because they said, hey, we found this. We corrected the issue. In other words, the process was working. So I have real problems with Trump trying to thwart the process. Oh, it's all rigged, all rigged. And he was setting the stage for this because on Sunday, Trump said, I'm going to declare victory on election night. In other words, I think he knew we were going to see the vote count go his way by election night and then slowly disappear as mail-in ballots were counted. And if you're mad about that process, well, let's look at Pennsylvania and Michigan. Their Republican legislators made policies, put into law, that you could not count the mail-in votes until after the in-person votes were counted. Now, I'm not sure if that was a deliberate strategy to give Trump some top cover to try and declare victory and then somehow cast doubt on the process, or just pure stupidity, or maybe it was a legitimate effort to make things easier for election workers. I don't know. I can't presume to say what it is, but the bottom line is if you are mad that the ballots didn't get counted until after Election Day, blame the Republican legislators in Pennsylvania and Michigan because that's what they put into law and that's what they were executing. By the way, speaking of ballots, your ballot has to be postmarked by Election Day. That means it can arrive afterward. It's like your taxes. Postmarked by April 15th. You don't want the IRS coming after you because your taxes didn't arrive by April 15th. They got to be postmarked by April 15th. And by the way, fun fact, they have until December 14th to certify the election and count the votes up. You know, when people say, oh, we've never seen it take this long before. Really? You're saying in the 1800s it never took this long to count ballots from a bunch of states and then take a horse and buggy to collect them all and count them all? Yeah, no, it took longer before. And then there was the 2000 election, how that dragged up. So, yes, looks like the process was legitimate, and I have no issue with people voting for Trump, no issue with people voting for Biden, but I do have issue with people who stood by the president's behavior. That was unacceptable, and what he did to undermine our process is going to take years to recover from. Supreme Court. Now, I think this was a strategic mistake for the president, a tactical victory. Now, in terms of the court, it was a strategic victory. You know, let's put another conservative on the bench. But I think that what this did is it drove liberals who may have stayed home. I had a lot of friends of mine on Facebook who were in the far left category who said, Joe Biden hasn't earned my vote. I'm not going to. And they were saying this as recently as the first debate. And I did some other research and it proved the same point. Liberals wanted to stay home because Biden wasn't their guy. What energized them? What changed their mind? When Trump rammed that nomination through, which he had full constitutional authority to do, and the Senate acted in their constitutional manner. Nothing illegal happened. Nothing wrong happened. That energized. They said, oh yeah, forget this. Whatever I felt about Biden not earning my vote, screw it. There's bigger things in there. So and I factored that into my model, why I thought it was going to be a lot closer, is that these liberals who weren't in love with Biden were suddenly going, oh crap, we got to go in there. And these people weren't going to go to a Biden rally. He wasn't their guy, but oh crap. And speaking of rallies, I got to go back to this point. I mean, Bernie Sanders had lots of support at rallies, but he couldn't translate that into votes. So I just like the rally metric. So there we go, which brings us now to where do we go from here? Well, you know, I think we got a lot of healing to do. You know, Trump doesn't divide us, Biden doesn't divide us, we divide us. And what I've been seeing on here, even as Biden was getting votes, I've seen friends I respect, even people I went to school with, saying like, oh my God, all these people want the Marxist cabal in there. Or I've seen commentators and other friends of mine saying, oh my God, when they saw how much support Trump actually had, like, I can't believe this country's so racist. All right, let's just stop, okay? You're not a closet Klansman because you voted for Trump, and you don't want your cities to burn or institute a Venezuelan-style system because you voted for Biden. People have real issues. Yes, there are fringe people who are racist who voted for Trump, and there are very, like, Antifa people who voted for Biden. But these are fringe people. Have a conversation with those who voted for Trump or Biden. Let's repair some of us may have had strained relationships. Let's have a conversation about that. Hey, why did you vote for Trump? No judgment. Why did you vote for Biden? You'll find there were issues like many people on Trump's vote on Team Trump were concerned about trade with China, especially in the Rust Belt states. They figured China trade deals hurt their livelihood. People who voted for Biden got tired of Trump's shtick. Some were Republicans who defected. Some were, you know, some just they believe in climate change. Some just say, hey, the president didn't do a good job with the COVID. Of legitimate issues and concerns people had. So let's stop delegitimizing people's issues. Listen to them. Make your point and listen to their point. That's why my model works, is I actually take time to really understand why people are voting the way they are. I don't go in there with any kind of predisposition. It's like, okay, this is let's learn what people are thinking. And I did predict, again, Trump's going to do better with African Americans and Latinos, and he did. He had more people of color than any Republican president since Reagan, I believe. And in fact, when on Bill Maher, I give Bill Maher props because he pointed it out when someone was like, I can't believe there's so many racist people. Bill Maher's like, hey, he did better with minorities than any other Republican did. And then the guy went on to discount that, going, that's bad information. And Maher said, this is from the New York Times, the freaking New York Times. This is not a conservative news outlet. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. And so there's all that. So people had legitimate concerns. Let's just accept that fact. Let's not understand it bad people. And look, this is how elections work. We're going to have Republicans. We're going to have Democrats. If you really think there's a world where a Democrat will never get elected to president, or you think a Republican will never get elected to president, I don't know what you're thinking. That just world does not exist. People have legitimate issues. Longer term trends. I do think for the Republican Party, they got to address two key issues: healthcare and cost of education. I work with a lot of millennials and Generation Y, and you know, the bigger, these kids all want socialism. No, they don't. They want better healthcare, and we need improvements there. And so one party has a healthcare plan. The other party had 11 years now, 2020, we've had 11 years since Obama pushed through Obamacare to come up with something different, and they have yet to do it. So a lot of people complain about their health care. So if their choice is the party that has something and the party that has nothing, you're going to see more people going to Democrats. Higher education. A lot of jobs, right or wrong, still require a college degree, which means people are going to college, and that it's incurring a lot of debt. So what's the Republican system? I do agree that student loans is actually incentivizing colleges to raise their rates. So there's a free market solution for both healthcare and college, and even thinking alternative education, online education, trade school, all those types of things need to be in the equation. The bottom line is Republicans need to offer something, or you're going to see more and more people voting for Democrat. And again, further proof that millennials don't want to be socialists. Millennials have produced more entrepreneurs than any other generation before them. In both real numbers and percentage of population, they are producing entrepreneurs. So they want to be the next Zuckerberg. They don't want to be taxed. They don't want to all this kind of thing, but they do believe climate change is a thing. And what's interesting is in Germany, the right-wing party believes in climate change. Like Merkel's like a further to the right party. It's one of the further right parties in Germany, and yet that party believes in climate change. So why is everything such a right and left thing? I mean, like masks became an issue. Okay, one side says this, so we have to be the opposite. It's like our party system right now is if one side, whoever declares right now the sky is blue, the other side's going to declare it's gray, and that's just how we're going to do things. We got to get better than that. I mean, we got to find some common ground because we are more aligned on issues than we think. Let's take abortion. Data. 95% of the population wants abortion legal for cases of incest, rape, or mother's life in danger. 95% of the population. Like only 5% of the population believes no abortion under any circumstance. So why is no abortion under any circumstance even on the Republican Party platform when only like 5% of the US population even believes that? I mean, we are so much alike in a lot of things. We can make some compromises. We can sit down, talk, and have a dialogue, and I hope we do that. I don't hate people who vote for Trump. I'm not very fond of people standing for his behavior this week. And I don't hate people voting for Biden. No, they're, as sort of paraphrase, good people on both sides. Let's celebrate that. Let's celebrate that people have real concerns. People stood up and voted. Looks like the election fraud wasn't a thing. We have a president-elect. And if you're upset about the result, well, guess what? In 4 years, there's another election. So there you go. Thanks for sticking with me. Hope you have a great day. It's sunny outside. I'm going to enjoy this weather again. And wow, have a great weekend. Thanksgiving's coming up. Let's use the time to come together.